And welcome to the 2020 CrossFit Games Open, guys. My name's Danny.
Lewis.
Melissa.
And yeah, it's 2020. 2 opens this year, guys.
2 opens.
Yeah.
Second one.
Yeah, so our first workout is 10 rounds for time, 8 ground to overhead at 95, 65 pounds, and 10 bar facing burpees. It's interesting, before we started, Lewis was actually just saying it does not really feel like a week 1 workout, right?
No, not at all. It feels like a week 5 workout. Intensity is going to be high. A bunch of people are going to be struggling to make that cap. And it's going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, I feel like we're saying that also because of the 10 rounds, and they've used that format a couple times in the final week.
Yeah.
It definitely does feel like a last week workout. I would say though, like if you've been paying attention to what CrossFit.com's been doing and stuff that they've been preaching, it's been very family friendly, so to speak, and this is a workout that anybody almost can do at the prescribed weight.
Agreed. Almost everyone should be able to do this.
Yeah, for sure. Mel, what are your thoughts on pacing for this workout?
I think that is super dependent on your skill level.
Right.
I think you have a few different types of people. People are going to be trying to finish around 10 minutes. People are going to be trying to finish around 12. And people are just like hanging on.
Trying to beat the cap.
And it's really dependent on how skilled you are at burpees and how much you can endure back fatigue and shoulder fatigue and how much you can just keep pushing through it.
Lou, would you recommend someone did snatch or clean and jerk? I mean, I know we saw these 2 monsters in the video or in the announcement do them as snatch all the way through.
I think obviously it depends on your strength and skill level. If you struggle with snatches, if you're not ultra confident, if you don't have, I'd say if you're a man and you don't have like 100 plus kilo snatch, you really should just start clean and jerks. Women, the same thing. If 65 gets heavy for you, like it shouldn't even be an option. You should just start with the clean and jerks.
Right, the snatches are just going to get really slow and it's going to affect your burpees and it's just not worth it if it's a heavy barbell for you to move.
Unless you're an elite athlete trying to get like a sub 10-minute score, I don't think there's a huge time difference between the snatch and the clean and jerk when you consider the bar facing burpee. I think that is going to be the time suck for most people. So if you know lifting is going to be difficult for you, I would just start with clean and jerks the whole way.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of hinging between the amount of reps, the bending you're going to do, either snatch or clean and jerk, and burpee. So I think something that people really need to consider, as always, is a good, very thorough warm-up, spending a lot of time on activating tissue and carrying yourself through as many deep ranges of motion as possible.
Yeah.
If your first introduction to that is the combination of ground to overhead and burpee, you're going to be in trouble for sure.
Like Mel said, it's going to come down to like enduring back fatigue for a lot of people. And I think that's probably even truer as you get fitter and can move faster. And then the warm-up and activation becomes even more important.
So Mel, if you were doing this workout, I know we're talking about this ground to overhead, I would imagine you would probably snatch.
Yeah.
Right? And when you see like high rep touch and go snatches, there's a few different techniques or motor patterns you might see. You might see people with a more upright torso. You might see people with a very high hip. You might see people performing the touch and go reps, but kind of making hard contact at the floor to try to make them bounce. What would you do if you were doing this workout?
So if I were doing this workout, when you tap and go, your hip has to be a tiny bit higher. I am not a big fan of letting the bar slam on the floor and not having it make contact on my thighs first. I like to tap and then go down, just because I think it's so back intensive that if you start off this workout trying to slam the barbell on the floor, you're gonna hit a wall pretty quick. I would stick to the 8 ground to overhead, the 8 snatches unbroken the whole way through, keeping that. I would push that a little more than I would push the burpees. Just because if you're comfortable with burpees, you can afford to like hit that 80-85%, take a step before jumping over. That also decreases your chances of getting dizzy, getting out of breath, just taking that one step. If you normally step up, I would do that. If you don't, bounce up and take a step before jumping over. I think that would be really beneficial in helping you catch your breath. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I would push the barbell a little more than I would push the burpees, just because the burpees have a tendency to get you winded a lot faster than anything else.
That being said, we're not huge proponents of changing the way you do something right before an open workout.
Right.
If you are one of those people that doesn't make contact with their thigh on the way down from a touch and go. You go straight to the floor. It is a longer eccentric. There's more loading on the back. You just have to be aware that you will run into back fatigue a lot sooner doing it that way. If you're not comfortable switching your movement pattern up, you're not going to do it in a workout that has 80 reps, right? So you're going to stick with what's comfortable, but going into it, that has to be an area that you address in your warm-up. And again, during the workout, it's something you're going to have to think about.
Right.
Yeah.
I do think it's one that's designed really well. If you look at the relationship between the 8 ground overhead and 10 bar facing burpees, they're pretty equitable, I think. I think if this workout was like 12 ground overhead and 10 bar facing burpees, I mean, it's not a ton more reps. However, it would change the dynamic of the entire workout.
Sure.
8 is a number where it almost like
Entices you to stay unbroken.
exactly, regardless of your fitness level, regardless if you're going to do snatch or clean and jerk,
100%.
it really pushes people to do them unbroken. I would say if you're a candidate who is not likely going to finish it, I don't think doing them unbroken is important. And I'm really talking about folks that are doing the open just to get the best score that they can, not going to be repeating attempts. I think for folks like that, the burpees are probably the deal breaker. They'll probably spend a little bit more time there. And if you are a candidate for someone who just is trying to barely finish, I would consider having a break on the ground overheads and pushing the burpees more.
Yeah, again, I don't think that's an issue.
No,
like I
I
think
would
the
say
burpees
4-4.
is what sucks up the most time here. I mean, we saw Rich and Scott do it, and their burpees were not done I wouldn't call that a fast pace by any means. That was a very moderate, controlled pace, and I think that's what it's going to be for most people. I don't see you speeding up there, so if you're going to rest somewhere, like it has to be.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to take
the
breaks on the 10 bar facing
Yeah.
burpees. Not only that, you could tell in the video that they were feeling a lot of shoulder fatigue. If you're snatching, your shoulders are going to be destroyed. So it's worth, if you're one of those athletes that really has trouble pushing on burpees and you feel like you're going to have to take a breather, it's worth doing 4 and 4 and trying to push through those burpees. Not only that, I think this is a workout where you can get through 4 or 5 rounds pretty easily, and then you hit a wall and all of a sudden you feel like you're dying. So it's gonna feel like, oh yeah, I'm pushing fine, this is great. Maybe you're hitting like 90% and you're going above what your original pace was. The second last 5 rounds are just gonna be really rough, and you're really gonna slow down if you don't consider it as a whole entire workout.
Something interesting is that the burpee standard changed. If you were doing this workout and for the last 2 years you've been training this new burpee standard that they've had where you can't step forward, would you adapt back to the old standard? Would you change that?
I wouldn't. I've never stepped up on burpees. What I would do is I would take a step before jumping over. So pop up on the burpee, take 1 step before jumping over the bar, and then jump. I've always done my burpees like that. It helps me take a breath before getting over the barbell, and I think that that's super helpful. That's what works for me.
Cool.
Yeah. Real quick, we said there should be 3 targets. Someone who's elite, trying to hit like a 10-minute pace or a sub 10-minute pace. Someone who's not quite there but is a good athlete, that's going to be somewhere in the 12 to 13, and then someone trying to beat the cap. Mel, you want to go over like pacing structure for that?
Yeah. Okay, so if you're an athlete, you're trying to go elite, you know you're going to go unbroken, you know burpees aren't an issue for you, and you watch the open announcement today and you're like, man, you know what, I can keep that pace, I got this. 10 rounds to hit 10 minutes, you want to average a minute per round. Obviously, you're not going to start at a minute and continuously keep a minute the whole way. So you're going to want to start a little bit faster. I didn't get the first round, but the second round for the guys was around 45 seconds, and then they kept to like 55 seconds, and then came up a little bit over a minute. So if that sounds like it's doable for you, I would definitely try and start around 45, 50 seconds and not going too over that minute mark.
Yeah, I think like round 5's like the breaking point. If you could stay sub a minute for the first 5 rounds, even if you're slightly over a minute afterwards, you're going to average out around 10, and that's a great goal to shoot for.
Right.
If you're like a good athlete but not quite elite, you will break a little bit, you're shooting for like that 12 to 13, where would you start?
If you're shooting for 12 to 13, I would say to start at like around 55 seconds, because you want to average a minute 10. So again, we're taking into account shoulder fatigue, back fatigue. If you do have to end up breaking up around like 8, 9, or 10, you want to be able to account for that. So starting at around 50, 55, and then trying not to go over 110.
And then if you are just trying to hang on and push as much as you can in the 14, 15 minute range?
Yeah, you're looking at a 120 pace, so I would start at around 105 a minute and try not to go over 120. So it's definitely beneficial to have someone, a judge, and then have someone with a clipboard right next to you.
Have a pacer,
Yeah.
judge, and a person with a stopwatch pacing your rounds. The moment you start falling off, they should say something.
Right, someone should be like, hey, you're going too fast, or hey, you're going too slow, hey, you're right on pace, or someone just keeping you accountable for what your goal is.
Very cool. Well, from Team Soul HQ, we wish you guys luck this year in the 2020 Open. Please leave your comments. We are also going to post the link to our warm-up, which is going to be featured on our blog. You can find all that information at www.teamsoultraining.com. Thanks.